Hi, this is Trina Kavanagh-Thomas and welcome to the Self-Love Greenlight. I am here today with the amazing Lucy Spencer, and I want to share a little bit about the Self-Love Greenlight, because the Self-Love Greenlight is for everything that's self-love and self-care when in business. I think, you know, when we go through business, it can be very hard and difficult at times. And if we don't have like that kind of routine that helps us to move through those things, it can feel harder. And when it doesn't necessarily need to be as hard, so to speak. So today I'm speaking to Lucy Spencer. Now, me and Lucy, we met through Caroline Sylvia Ragg's Rev Up. Now, Caroline Sylvia Ragg is an international, she's international strategic marketing. I'll get there in the end. I'll get there in the end. But she brought together a beautiful group of people to do Rev Up, which is one of her programs, and that's where I met Lucy. And I was really intrigued by what Lucy does in terms of, you know, conscious business solutions. And that is the company that she's formed. And the podcast today is about the power of a conscious business. Now, Lucy is a business consultant specialising in enhancing business operations throughout company systems and culture. And that's SME leaders who are taught a people-centric approach, using traditional conscious practices with holistic twist. This creates a deep-rooted transformation that leads to happier and more engaged employees, improved customer satisfaction, and increased turnover. Lucy was a project manager in the corporate world for over a decade, and in 2017 transitioned to working with small businesses and startups. In 2020, Lucy founded Conscious Business Solutions to offer a more in-depth, conscious solution approach to small businesses, and you've been obviously sharing this knowledge ever since. Just for the audience, what is Conscious Business Solutions? What is the full weight of it?
The business itself is all about getting that conscious business practice information out there, because so few people know the terminology. Yet when you start to talk about it with people, they're kind of like, all right, I get it, because it is something that comes naturally to us. In business, though, we've been taught this way to operate, which doesn't really resonate with the majority of us. You know, tell that little white lie there. Don't tell them we made that error. No, nobody needs to know about that. Let's like put that under the rug. No one needs to know. So conscious business is saying, why not? Why not, you know, learn from our mistakes? Let's be open and honest about things. Let's be able to be authentic in the workplace. So it's having that open approach, being ethical, thinking in a more sustainable manner. So that's a word that's coming up more and more in my business as well. So yeah, just putting people and the planet then at the heart of decisions within a business, so everybody's happier.
That's amazing, because this really touches on, and I think I've mentioned this before, that kind of vulnerability. You know, admitting, you know, where things need changing, admitting, you know, like mistakes and things, you know, admitting things that we can do better, you know, and almost like admitting, like, it's almost like reflecting, isn't it? And just being very honest when we take those reflections as to how we move forward. This is such a, to me, it's such a beautiful role and a beautiful turn of events that needs to be created in the world, because otherwise it's just going to be full of perfectionism. Now, obviously, perfectionism isn't all bad, but it just gives us a sense of seeing people for who they are. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah, and it is something that definitely is going to take some work, because, like I say, we've been taught a different way to operate in business. We've been taught this is right, this is what you should be doing. If you want to be successful, you do this. don't be emotional at work. Whatever's happening at home, don't care. Almost for many years back, 20 years ago, that would have very much been the message. Nowadays, we're getting that we're human, and we therefore need to acknowledge that and allow people, support people to behave in a human manner within the workplace. And yeah, there's always going to be stuff going on. So help them, and then they'll if you support them through those times, they'll eventually, they'll actually be able to do a better job. So I kind of feel like I'm saying there's a selfish element to it, but in reality, it's just treating people the way you want to be treated, which sounds cliche, but that's what a conscious business is about. That's what businesses going forward are going to be about, because we're seeing now that employees are really aware of the type of business they work in, and they're going to jump to a company that does operate in the way they want, that does care for them, does think about things like the environment, and they'll take a pay cut. It's insane, especially this younger generation coming through. They've got such strong values that it's amazing to see, but people have to catch up. The owners, the leaders in these businesses have to kind of understand that things are changing, and they're not quite there yet.
It's amazing, because you hit something on the head, and I have spoken to people about this in great length, where you are happy to take a pay cut to be treated better by someone. It is not all about the money at the end of the day. There have been many, even myself included, there have been many businesses that kind of treat people in somewhat, certain ways, and obviously it's taught, isn't it, that don't have the staff's best interest or the employee's best interest at heart, and the employee then feels disenfranchised, so they're happy to take a lower paid job. And it's the amazing amount, or even go into self-employment, even set up their own business. It's amazing the amount of people that I speak to, and I will say to them, do you feel happier now? And they're like, yeah, 10 times happier. Even though I took a pay cut, I don't have all this kind of mind stuff going on, all this stuff that's going on in my head in the background. I don't have this company emailing me when I'm not working, or sending me stuff and expecting me to do it when I'm outside of that kind of environment. It's almost like their work has followed them around, almost like a stalker almost, isn't it? And they're every second, in their life. That is it's mental torture to someone. And I take it that that's what you are creating and taking away from people, right?
Yeah. But then kind of going against that, if you're a conscious business and you're maybe listening to people, allowing them to have more flexible hours, maybe they'd have a couple of hours out during the day, and they would be working in the evening if you kind of required that. But they've taken that time out in the day, they've gone off and done some exercise, or gone out for lunch and had a long lunch, and really kind of done something to upgrade their well-being. And then they've, done a little bit more later. And that's part and parcel of being a conscious business, and allowing people to work in the way they want to work, and allowing them to be as healthy as they can be too.
Yeah, I think it kind of works twofold, doesn't it, from what you're saying, because they end up becoming healthier, but they end up becoming more productive because they work in the hours that they essentially want to work. And those hours can also be unsociable as well. They may decide that they want to get up earlier in the morning and think, oh, you know what, actually, this is a really good time for me to be working right now. And this is why I love what you are talking about, because this is I say it's very different, but really it's
Yeah,
really it's just very common. It's basic knowledge. It is of how we work as human beings. We're working to an individual and then to a wider team. Am I correct in saying that?
yeah. I mean, I like to say that technically this is a throwback to how businesses operated when commerce first became a thing. And I'm talking like thousands of years back, ancient Greece, market stalls next to your neighbours, and you were, doing the best deal possible. It wasn't always a monetary exchange, which is what some businesses are starting to do now, right? Understanding there are different ways of kind of exchanging for goods, different commodities you can use for it. So it's almost like a throwback to those days where you wanted to do the best thing possible for your neighbor. There was that kind of, that kindness, that willingness to go the extra mile, because hey, you've known them for 20 years and you were going to be in the pub later today with them. So yeah, it literally is going back to those days rather than putting in place something completely new, as you're saying. It's just different to how we've been taught to operate in business for the last couple of decades, where it's kind of got very straight-laced and difficult, which then brought in all these stresses and anxieties and damaged people's physical and mental health. And these things are starting to be realised, but there's a better way to do it. There's a way that takes into account these things and supports people with those things.
Yeah, and I feel like, as you say, in your bio, deep-rooted transformation that leads to happier and more engaged employees, improved customer satisfaction, and increased company turnover. These are things that really speak to a company. Why would we have practices that lead to unhappier, less engaged, less improved customer satisfaction and less of a company turnover? Why would we do that? It doesn't.
It's crazy, right?
It doesn't make sense, because yes, maybe it pulls in money, but it probably isn't pulling in the turnover that you could have if everyone was happier and more productive, right?
Yeah. And there are so many other benefits to this as well around, sickness and productivity. There are so many benefits to this. And the facts are out there, all the statistics are out there, because more employees want to see businesses that operate in this way. More customers want to buy from customers that operate in this way. It's the way of the future. And if you don't operate in this way, you won't be as successful as a company that does. And seriously, the stats are out there for this, showing that people that put in place conscious practices, they have sustainability agendas, they are more successful. It just takes a little bit of time and thought to put these things in place to start with.
Yeah.
But you're going to reap the rewards of doing it.
I love what you're saying. I would love, and especially for the audience, to know what made you kind of get into this. What was the driving force? Because there's always a story behind why these businesses come forth and come to fruition. So what is the story behind why you've brought consciousness to the forefront?
I feel like it's a journey I've been on for the last 6+ years. I was a project manager in the corporate world. So I was there in the middle of things, upgrading systems and all that sort of thing. So I'm very structured in the way I think, very logical. But I wanted back then even to better care for my team members. There wasn't really a HR department then that was kind of really going out there and providing that care service. So I was stepping in and wanting the best, because I was working with these people day in and day out. I wanted to make sure they're okay. And I knew that if they were in a good state of mind, if they knew exactly what they were working on, why their time, their effort was valued by me and the company, they would kind of, it would increase their efforts. They would just do a better job, because that's the way we naturally behave as humans. So I kind of started going on a journey to learn more about leadership modalities then, I guess. It's the easiest way to say it. But then everything else as well. I was learning about things outside of work. I was doing nutrition courses because I wanted to learn something more. And I'm realizing that all of these things that I'm learning, I can start to apply in the workplace. I did an NLP course, so I'm starting to think more about how we think. I did a coaching course, and I had peeps turn around and say, can you, on the quiet of a lunchtime, can you give me some coaching sessions? So I literally have, my team members, my colleagues coming to me and asking for help, given the new skills I was learning. Ended up jumping out because the corporate world is the corporate world, and so few companies were thinking in a way that really supported me at the time. So I went to work for a mentor of mine who had been teaching me another skill, which is very prominent in CPS, which is the energy tools. It's all about how we communicate on a subconscious level using colors, numbers, symbols, sounds. So I went to work with her. It was my first experience in a startup, very different to the corporate world. But there was that desire to operate in a different way. And that's where I came across the first company that was working as a conscious business. And it wasn't a term that we used. We weren't familiar with it then. And it wasn't actually till afterwards that I really went into kind of deep diving into what a conscious business was. But there was that feeling of camaraderie, that feeling that we wanted to support each other, the feeling that there was a mission. And the mission was so important to all of us because it was about being the way we thought as adults, the way it was helping adults overcome their challenges. So all of this was coming together. And once I jumped out of there, I just had people pull me in and say, hey, can you help me out? Starting a business, seeing what you do. Can you put in place a structure, but with the conscious stuff in it? So somehow CBS started with everything I'd learned up to that point without me even thinking about it. People just pulled me in to do it. And yeah, it's been going ever since. There's been a big change last year where I've gone out of the world and said, this is what I'm doing. This is what's possible, rather than working with people that I knew, which was what I was doing for the first couple of years. It was kind of very much a sideline thing, like it is for so many people when they start a business. But yeah, I've ever since last July, August time, I've been going out there, letting people know more about conscious business practices, because I know that, as I was saying earlier, before we started this is about more than a business to me. This is about getting the word out there of there being a different, better, a kind of way to operate in business. So there's going to be books in the future. I'm going to be doing a lot of talks, which scares the hell out of me. But I know it's there in the future. I know I have to be doing it because I've got to get the word out there about this amazing way to operate.
And it is an amazing way to operate as well. And you can really hear it as you're talking about it. And also, the practices that you have taken, the where you've come from to get to creating what you've created as well, and how it helps people, move forward, especially in this world of business that we're in now. It's very, it is changing, and it does need to look at those traditional practices. These are traditional practices. And I love how you mentioned about energy as well, how you taking energy and how that works within the business as well.
It's an interesting one because the mentor I worked for, energy was a word that was an easy topic for us to talk about. We were all very open, and it was something that we all learned a lot about. But then when I went out there into the big wide world, big wide world, that sort of terminology wasn't catching on, because I was going out there saying, literally, I help you to upgrade the energy in your business. I help to upgrade the energy of the people in your business, which then has a knock-on effect of upgrading the energy of your business itself. And people were like, what are you talking about? So I've really had to change my message. But in reality, that's there. That doesn't change. That never goes away. That is technically what I'm doing. If energy is everything's energy, then it's the kind of the core, the crux of what I'm going out there with.
Yeah, even as you're like talking about it now, what else? There was something else that kind of nipped into my mind and then nipped back out again as I was thinking. I was like, oh, it was just brilliant. Oh, it will come to me. It will come to me. But I do believe that we do need to go back to that way again. We do need to go back to that way where we understand like the energy of the business and the energy of the person that is in the business. I love that as well. I get it. As you were saying it, I was like, yeah, I get it. I get that. But I can also understand, you know, in the business world, that's something that may not be understood.
I think maybe in the future, and I think maybe certain countries will get it before maybe UK will get it.
Yeah.
Or there'll be sectors that there's certain groups that I belong to where it might be it will make sense to them.
Yeah.
But on the whole, the sort of country we are, it's going to take a while to get there. And as it is, just getting the basics of conscious business practice out there is kind of challenging enough, because I'm asking people to move away from what they've been doing for the last how many years. There are people out there that kind of still don't get it, and they're like, I've been doing this. This is the way I've been leading teams for the last 20 years. I know it works. It's just I don't know what's going on now, but it's just the blip because it's worked for 20 years. It's like, no, especially the last couple of years with COVID, things changed. Employees saw what it was possible, what could be put in place for them, how they could be better supported. And then you've kind of taken it away, kind of said back into the office and all of these sorts of things. So employees are like, no, we don't want that. So it's just employers need to catch up. Leaders need to understand that, yeah, you're going to have to change. You're going to have to adjust. And it doesn't mean throwing out everything, but it does mean, yeah, operating with awareness and being willing to think about how your actions and decisions are going to impact everybody in your business and the planet. Add that on because it's important to a lot of people. Businesses can really step up and play their part there in helping us get to net zero. But it's there's a lot that can be done. So employees are very much motivated by that sort of thing.
Yeah, and they are, and I think, as you say, there are businesses out there who do get it and are starting to listen, and it is a case of starting to listen and understanding and implementing change, because the energy has changed, and the energy has changed in the way that it is now a movement back to the practices that did exist before, that were more people person-centered, really. Before we go, what are the top tips that you would like to give our audience if they were looking at becoming a more conscious business?
I would say first and foremost is your purpose. That's the number one thing that drives everything. Your mission, your vision derives from your purpose, but then it's going to really influence the way people behave in your business, influence the sort of products and services you provide. So come back to that and really spend some time thinking about how to make it as strong as possible, because it can be really inspiring and really help motivate your employees. So that's where I'd start. And then engage people, ask their opinions, get your employees to feel like they can have that say, that it's acceptable, because for many years it wasn't okay for people to talk out and say, oh, not sure about this, but allow them to feel that they're in that safe space, create that environment where they can share their ideas, their opinions, and they therefore feel really part of what is being created within your business. That's so important.
Valued, that was the word, isn't it? Valued. Yeah, valued. And that is so beautiful. I just want to thank you for being here today. Just to recap, we've been talking about conscious business and the power of having a conscious business, and that it is more person-centered, that we kind of play to people's strengths and weaknesses, but know, you know, who is in the business, how do we, you know, how do we look after them? You know, are they allowed to be themselves? That's the overriding message that I kind of like hear within this as well, that it's time to come away from practices that have been going on for quite some time that aren't giving, you know, happier, you know, engaged employees, but instead is actually you know, is it's time to change that and, you know, move into more happier, more engaged, you know, improve customer satisfaction and increase company turnover as well. It is important, it is, that we start, you know, hearing about this a lot more, and that we start being more open-minded to the possibility of what is possible within a business right now, that we move back to traditional methods and traditional practices. That's what I'm getting from this whole talk today, and that would be better for the, not just for the business, but also equally for the employee and for the environment as well. That's what I'm getting from this conversation today. Lucy, I want to thank you for being here today and coming on, and I'm so glad we're having this conversation right now. I am really,
thank you so much for having me. Yeah, it's been great.
Yeah. And well, it needs to be out there. It needs to be out there. I just want to thank everyone for listening today, and we'll be back with the Self-Love Greenlight very soon. But I just want, before I go, I'm just going to provide you with Lucy's links, because I do feel, if you feel like you need to hear more about this, if you want to put more conscious practices into your business that give it that real incredible boost of energy, then do get in contact with Lucy. So it's Lucy Spencer CBS on LinkedIn, consciousbusinesssolutions.co.uk, and then we will add Lucy's YouTube channel below as well. So everything will be either in the podcast description, the YouTube description, as well as you watch this. You can just easily click on it, and then you can go find Lucy, go and follow her, because these are things that really do need to be put into place. You can tell that there's a lot of heart that is going into this. Thank you very much for speaking to me today.
Thank you.